Wall Street Unplugged looks beyond the regular headlines heard on mainstream financial media to bring you unscripted interviews and breaking commentary direct from Wall Street right to you on Main Street.
How's it going out there? It's June 3rd. I'm Frank Curzio, host of the Wall Street Unplugged podcast, where I break down the headlines and tell you what's really moving these markets. You know, I had a conversation with my daughter on Monday, and she asked me, said, Daddy, why are people burning cars in the street? Why are they beating up police officers? I said, where are you seeing that? She's like, on videos. And I have a lot of the things in place where she's not supposed to be watching them. It's just absolutely everywhere, and it's hard to filter a lot of that stuff out, whether it's an iPad, phone, whatever. Even on TV, just watch it. It's everywhere. It's in your face. So I told her something really bad happened, where a white policeman was handcuffed a black person, held him down by putting his knee into his neck, and that black person died. And she saw that video, and she's like, why does he keep his knee on his neck for? Yeah, he was in handcuffs. And I said, because he's an idiot. And not all policemen are like that. So she asked me an interesting question. Why are people hurting other people? And why do people hate all police officers? I said, wow, you know, that's a great question, but I have no idea. So having this conversation with my 12-year-old daughter, and I explained to her about protests and said how people unite for a cause to try to make people change, make society change. It's usually done through peaceful protests. That whole conversation alone shows how effed up our country is right now. Because our kids are watching us. These are the things they remember growing up. Not the fact that people came together to protest for change, but how we couldn't go as a family to Jacksonville, in a park that we like to go to, because we may get beat up. We may get bottles thrown at us. Because we're scared. And you think about that for a minute. Because everything going on, I know you're in tune with it. I'm getting emails on it, but we all have to speak out here. Because this is no longer about George Floyd. Because there's not one person that I've seen that I know of, any color, race, gender, that doesn't believe that police officer used excessive force, which resulted in a tragic and horrible death, should go unpunished. Nobody. We're all on the same page. But now it's turned to income and racial inequality, and that's fine. I understand it, and I get it. And you look at Wall Street. Wall Street got bailed out in 2008, and I saw this firsthand. I was working on Wall Street right across from the New York Stock Exchange. And when I say I'm working on Wall Street, I mean actually working on Wall Street, not downtown. Protesters everywhere. If all these companies, they got bailed out after taking on excessive risks with other people's money, lying, cheating, paying off people, rating agencies. Nobody got arrested. And the companies that took part in those illegal actions are 10 times bigger today than they were back then. Fast forward to today with the coronavirus. Tens of millions of people are out of work. Sure, probably half are making more money now than they ever have, but the other half are really struggling. They're watching more bailouts, $6 trillion plus now we're in. And these bailouts target corporate America. They target middle class and the wealthy, because a lot of these policies, lower interest rates, these are policies that result in the inflation of assets. And lower income family do not own as many assets. The assets are owned by wealthy people. So I love the fact that we're seeing so many people speak out on this. It's Sean Penn's on TV speaking out. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar speaking out. I love that CEOs, professional team owners, everybody speaking out against this. Has to be equal. The society is the wealth gap is incredible. Racial injustice. I get it. I love it. What I effing hate is, why is nobody speaking out against the violence taking place across every major city in America? It's almost to the point where speaking out against the violence It almost means that you're speaking out against racial income inequality and everything. It's two totally different things. You're looking at politicians, actors, musicians, famous athletes. These are people who have huge influence in the media. None, zero, none of them are condemning the violence. And when you don't condemn it, it's almost that you support it. But where is the outrage for that? I mean, did you ever believe that we would see a time in this country where you couldn't walk down the street in any major city because you fear for your life? And yes, we've seen protests like this before, but it's been isolated in some cities. It's not like this. Every city, every major city. And this isn't just peaceful protests. It's incredibly dangerous. Curfews. Do you ever think you see businesses, minority neighborhoods are getting looted and burned to the ground? Or where police officers have to live in fear because less than 3% of the entire force happens to be a bunch of racist assholes. I mean, compare that to my industry in finance, and I bet 30% of the people are crooks, and nobody beats the crap out of these people. But yesterday was the icing on the cake for me. I mean, I saw a video that literally put tears in my eyes. It was a black police officer who was trying to stop looters from stealing merchandise from a store. And one of those looters shot and killed him. He was a retired 77-year-old police officer. He was laying in the street, taking his last breath. People were videotaping him for like 8-9 minutes. There was a guy who supposedly called 911, just talking, oh man, this guy shot or whatever. And then people just running and trying to steal stuff. No, he was in the street taking his last breath with someone sitting there just videotaping him. Well, those looters were still stealing stuff. And nobody even cared that this poor guy was dying. In the middle of the street. It's in the middle of the street. He's laying there, bleeding, taking his last breath, died. And this story is not even newsworthy. Instead, we have so many people, civil rights leaders attacking Twitter, Facebook to take down stupid comments posted by the president. That's more important than this. But I'm going to say what a lot of people want to say, but maybe are afraid to, because they may be deemed a racist. They think they'll get fired. They're not going to get a job in Hollywood anymore. But if you're black, if you're a civil rights leader, if you want change, it can't just be about trying to change white people's minds. It has to start within your own communities. And this is a black 77-year-old police officer, retired, shot dead, left in the street for trying to help a small business from being robbed. And not one civil rights leader, actor, athlete said a thing. I mean, you think about what these protests are. We want to raise awareness that racial inequality. We want to show people because we're white. We don't understand this. We lived in a different environment. We'll never understand it. But we only understand what we're watching and what we're hearing. And when we see that, and it's not just that one thing. I mean, several people have been murdered. I've seen videos of innocent people getting beat downs. One video, some a-hole who grabbed a young girl, she may be about 30 years old, and told her, get on your knees and apologize for decades of slavery, and just started insulting her. And she was on her knees, like scared. And he's taking the video. He's like, yeah, that's what I thought. Like he's making fun. I mean, if you really want to make a statement, if you want everyone on the same side here, you want to protest in an effort to create change that we truly need, you have to speak out against all effed up people. You have to condemn what some, and it's not all and it's not most, but some of these crazy people are doing right now, which are using Floyd's death as an excuse to be violent and hate on everything. But this is the time. This is a chance to make a statement, to bring change to America. And a small percentage of you are burning buildings, stealing from stores, destroying other people's property that they worked their whole lives to build. And everyone is fucking okay with this. I mean, I would never pretend to know how a black person feels or lives his life. I can only attest to how I feel. I mean, I grew up in Queens, New York. All I did was play basketball my whole life. I mean, I happened to get really good. So we played in the white neighborhoods. We were better than everybody. It wasn't fun anymore. So we drove to places like Jamaica, other black neighborhoods to play black people because they were by far the best basketball players, and we wanted to be the best and play against the best. When we got to those parks, I'm not going to lie, I was a little nervous. But once we got on that court and they saw we played, it was all respect. I mean, everyone was the same color. And now that I run a business, I never looked at race or gender when hiring someone. That was me. It's the way I was grown up. I always hire the person that have the most drive. I don't care about even resumes. I tell people, I don't want to see your resume. I want to meet you in person. I want to know if this guy's going all in or this girl's going to go in, regardless of race, color, anything. That I know that I could teach. I don't care how smart you are. I need to know how hard you're going to work. Because if you give me someone that works hard, I'll teach them anything and they'll make a lot of money in this business. So for me, growing up, now being a business owner, I treat everyone the same. With that said, there's a huge problem in racial inequality and wealth inequality, which the wealth part comes from our government, who is on call to lower rates to zero and provide free money to the world whenever times get tough. We didn't see that during the dot-com bubble. We didn't see it during the 87 crash. I mean, this is like a new thing. 2008, throw tons of money at it. Look, everything's fine now for 10 years. Coronavirus, throw tons of money at it. Everything's fine now. But what they're doing is you're bailing out businesses that took on excessive risks that should have went under. And not all businesses I'm talking about. A lot of businesses are forced to shut down because of this, and I get it. And small businesses. But these measures are going to continue to increase this gap in income inequality because it makes the rich richer, who are the biggest owners of assets. That's the way things are now. Bail out everybody. Give money to these people. And if you look at every crisis, the people who survive or the people in a position of strength during those crises get 10 times bigger. Look at the banks in 2008. Wait till you see America after this. And when I say America, wealthy, rich, where we were okay going into this and everybody else, China was seeing slower growth. Europe was basically in a recession. All this pre-coronavirus. Now everyone wants to invest in us. Again, something that benefits the wealthy, the rich, and it's not filtering down. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I know how we're going to fix this problem because I'll be honest with you, nobody has offered that. Everybody wants to complain. That's all they want to do. They want to complain. And they want to come out with a statement. We need change. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. I know you're an actor and you haven't been in a couple movies, so you want to get on TV or whatever. I get it. It's not enough, man. It's not enough. And for major companies, politicians, actors in Hollywood, again, doing that politically correct thing, speaking out on this. Or the best is targeting anyone who doesn't agree with them, right? Like James Dolan, New York Knicks owner, Mark Zuckerberg. If this is America, we have free speech in this company. No, we have to get them off these platforms. I mean, that's the concern. That's the top story on these sites, not that some police officer got killed. Regardless of race, I mean, he is black, regardless of race, a police officer getting killed dead in the streets, trying to help people, and someone filming him for 9 minutes, taking his last breath, dying. It's not even a headline. It's nothing. Again, I don't know what the solution is, but I know it's not to burn freaking buildings down, drag people through the streets, and murder innocent people and police officers. That's not the solution. That's not going to create change. It's going to create more anger. I also know the solution is not to give reparations for slavery, or what Robert Johnson, the founder of BET, said our government should do, which flies in the face of every reason why that guy has been so successful and beat the odds and worked harder than everybody else. And I know he's talking his book. I get it. But do you really want to give money to people who incite violence to benefit themselves? What do you think that's going to lead to? But this is a time for change. I mean, it's a time for business leaders to speak out, to really make change, not just say you're going to do it, but do it. But let's do it the right way. Let's not do it by using violence. Let's do it by providing opportunities to educate people who didn't have the resources that someone like I had growing up, which is two great parents that pushed me. And I live in a really good neighborhood. A lot of people don't grow up in those communities. They don't have the opportunities. We have to be able to give them that opportunity for people who want to work, which is not everybody, which is not every black person, which is not every Spanish person or white person, but people who do need to have that opportunity. It's got to be available for everyone, regardless color, gender, everything. And here, my business, those opportunities are always going to be available. Why? Because I grew up like that. I mean, my company is about bringing Wall Street to Main Street. I worked on Wall Street. I hated it. I worked there for half of my life. I see the greed. I see how people screw other people. They don't care about anything. I see how I had access to so much stuff nobody else had access to. And that's what my podcast is about. That's what my company is about. Wall Street Unplugged, Curzio Research. I say it all the time. It's bringing Wall Street to Main Street, sharing opportunities with you that what's only available to wealthy investors. Anyway, that's my take on things. Getting emails about it. What do you think? How's it going to affect the market? It's more than the markets. I mean, I know it's an investment podcast, but what's going on in the world, in America right now? It's for businesses, we all need to do the right thing, but it has to come from everyone. You can't choose and select. You can't say, oh, we want this equality. And then, you have these people in the streets. I mean, we need everybody to speak out. It's not just civil rights leaders, not just business, but everybody. We need them to speak out, and we need to stop the violence. I mean, what's going on right now, if we don't have a solution for this, this is going to be a civil war. This is going to get worse. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get the military out there, and they're going to find a couple guys that are shooting something or doing something bad, and they're going to, by accident, kill an innocent person, and then that's it. That's it. This country's going to go crazy. How could you kill an innocent person when you have, you're trying to stop someone else from murdering someone, drag them through the streets? It's not going to end well. But even the people who are protesting, they need to speak out against the people who are doing all this violence. Because we're not really seeing it, and we're definitely not seeing that from Hollywood athletes. Again, these are the people that have the greatest influence on social media, that can reach the most people. Make it peaceful. That's how you get change. Again, I'm not going to pretend that I could walk in anybody's shoes. I don't know how it's going to be, but I do know that killing cops in the street, man, come on. People fearing for their lives, can't go outside in major cities. Man, this isn't America. And it's pretty crazy right now. So hopefully we can all come together, all businesses come together. And again, we have to tackle this problem of racial inequality, wealth inequality, racism, but hopefully we could do it in a peaceful way. It's almost impossible to segue here, but we're going to get to an interview, an educational segment. But the interview, maybe a little bit of a segue, because this is a brand new guest. His name is Arash Adnani, who's the founder of a new site called privateplacements.com. So Arash is a close friend I've known for close to 10 years. I went to Brazil, the World Cup with him, see a semifinal game. It was unbelievable. We had a great time. Went there for a week. Arash runs a digital agency in Canada called Blender Media, and he works specifically with lots of publicly traded Canadian companies. So working with them, listening to them, he decided to create an amazing resource to where anyone could have access to private placements and warrants, or see these deals to where they could participate or invest in them. And now you're going to have access to this tool, and it's going to be absolutely for free. And I don't get paid by anybody. I get paid by Arash. I don't get paid by any company to recommend their stocks, services, anything. This is just a great tool, another free resource I want to share with you to bring Wall Street to Main Street, because I listen to you. I answer my emails. I know a lot of you always say, how do I get into these private placements? And do I have to be a credit investor? Right now, you have to be a credit investor. That's going to change with crowdfunding features, which is coming up. So here's Arash Adnani explaining his new venture. It's called privateplacements.com. Arash Adnani, thanks so much for coming on Wall Street Unplugged.
Thanks for having me, Frank. Good to be here.
So people may be familiar with the last name because I've had Amir on this podcast plenty of times, but we've been friends for a long time. We've actually went to the World Cup together in Brazil almost like 10 years, I think, right?
2014.
The World Cup, but we've been friends for a long time. But So you created this site that's amazing. And I know you've been working on it for a long time, and now it's launched. It's called privateplacements.com. And I love sharing my resources with my guests because they don't know about sites like this. They don't know how they can get into private placements, and all of them want to try to get into private placements. Explain privateplacements.com.
Sure, yeah. Listen, privateplacements.com, as the name suggests, is the ultimate research tool for private placements investing. And what the site does is it aggregates every private placement by Canadian listed companies. So on a daily basis, we add every financing that's being announced and closed in the Canadian markets. That's by Canadian listed companies. It's the only tool of its kind. And best of all, it's free. So investors are really using this for their research. They're using this for deal flow. And the website, it was really built by investors for investors. When we built this, we looked at the question of how can we create something that we can use ourselves. And as your listeners are familiar, private placement investing is one of the best ways to become a shareholder in these companies. There's major upside and there's great sweeteners through the exposure through warrants. And so privateplacements.com allows you to research all those points in great depth. It consists of 5 main elements. And the main one is the financings database. And that's the one that gets updated every day. The financings database is very granular. So you're able to go on there and actually research the listings by sector. So if you're interested in precious metals, which a lot of investors are right now, you can just look at precious metals financings. If you want to only look at financings by those that have warrants attached, you can do that. You can select warrants, whether it's full or half, you have the option. And you could look at financings by brokered or non-brokered. As you know, a lot of companies are raising money basically directly to the investors from management team, which is a non-brokered deal. And sometimes that makes it a lot easier for investors to get involved with that. So the name of the game here is really the access to the data and the timeliness of the data. With a lot of these private placements, once a company announces a deal, they're on the clock. They're trying to close the financing. So if you're an investor and you're trying to participate, being able to see what's available the day that it's announced is really valuable because it gives you enough time to follow up and get in touch with the company if you do want to participate.
You know, you've run a very successful digital agency, long time, Blender Media, and you've worked with public companies in Canada for a very, very long time. Is that how you came up with this idea? Because having everything on one site is really cool, and it's absolutely free, which I love, and I love bringing free tools to my listeners, subscribers. And one of the biggest things is they all want to get into private placements. And of course, most of these, as you know, are very dangerous, right? Every company wants to raise money, but some of them are incredible. Some of them are great deals. And you know, with the warrant, you can get incredible upside. But talk about how you came up with this idea. Is it just by talking to so many companies? You know, you're in Canada, how many companies are raising money, and you know, maybe you have access to a deal, your brother does, and some of the insiders, but most people don't have it, especially in the U.S. So how did you come up with the idea and all the data for this site? Because it is pretty amazing.
It really was a natural evolution. So Blender Media, as you mentioned, we're a digital agency, and we specialize in creating websites for publicly traded companies. The company's been around since 2005, so we've worked with thousands of companies, from large companies like Goldcorp all the way down to small, very small startups. So working closely with companies, the one thing that we realized that companies need most is access to investors and the ability to articulate their value proposition, their investment proposition to investors. And some companies are great at it because they have management teams that are very active and they're very charismatic and they're great presenters. Other companies struggle with it because they might have management teams or CEOs that just aren't as visible, and they might not be able to command a room, but they have fantastic deals. And so what we realized is having a tool or a platform for companies to be able to tell their story to a targeted audience, something that is immensely important for the companies. Now, on the flip side, another thing that we realized is that for investors, having access to these deals and knowing what's going on with these deals is as important. And one thing, Frank, that I think you do a great job of for your audience is kind of being the guy that's out there, going to all the conferences. We've been to some conferences together, going through what's out there as far as upcoming trends, who the A plus teams are, what's happening in the market, and what people should be paying attention to. A lot of people don't have that luxury of knowing what's going on because they don't have access to the teams or the conferences. So they might subscribe to your newsletter or other people out there. And so privateplacements.com is another tool for investors from anywhere to see what's going on in the Canadian capital markets. The Canadian capital markets are extremely well followed and popular globally, not just in Canada and the US, but overseas. It's a market that's well known for its venture space and for its regulatory strength. So I think having this tool and creating it as a gateway for investors to really see what's going on and having that access to that information on a daily basis was a no-brainer. Once we started kind of thinking about it and drawing up the plan, we knew this needed to happen, and we knew that there was a real need for this.
Now, when did you actually launch the site?
It was earlier this year. We did a soft launch in January, and we announced it right before PDAC, which is basically early March, late February.
And how many people do you have signed up to it already, if you're allowed to say that?
It's we don't disclose those numbers, but
I know there's a lot because you're getting a lot of demand. I don't know if you're allowed to disclose them, but it's leading to my next question because I wanted to take people through this. And guys, if you're listening to this on iTunes, we also have this on a Curzio Research YouTube page, so you can see a video. Unfortunately, you're going to have to see our faces. But luckily, Arash is a good-looking guy. But I want to bring up your website to show people, because, again, it's absolutely for free, and it's such a good resource. So why don't you take us through, and I'm going to bring up the page here, and take us through here, because the first thing, and I try to always put myself in my listeners' shoes, right? And they're saying, okay, Canada private placements, mining stocks. But when you really go to the first page, it's not even mining. I mean, you have cannabis here, right? So I guess, can we?
Well, hold on. Let's do this. Okay, so this is the financings page on the website. Once you're on here, if you're actually looking for opportunities, the first thing you want to do is at the top bar there, is to go to status, the top row, second from the right. Oh, no, sorry, in the gray box there.
And status, okay.
There you go. Yeah, so you want to go with announced. So announced means these are financings that are currently open. Let's pick precious metals because there's a lot of activity right now with gold and silver.
Right here.
And so select that. And let's go under warrants, 2 columns over there. And let's click both full and half. I really feel like if you're investing in private placements, you should be getting exposure to warrants. Now let's scroll down. So this automatically sorts all the available deals that meet the criteria that we just selected. And as you can see, these are deals that were announced on June 2nd. So this is from yesterday. And you can see right here, the name of the company, the ticker symbol, the price of the financing. So you have Tectonic Metals here, Tectonic Metals, 20-cent raise, 50 million shares, 3 million total proceed. It's a non-brokered. So Tectonic Metals actually is a client of ours on the agency side. The CEO, Tony Reda, used to be with Kamenak, which was a big exit. They sold to Goldcorp. So that's actually an interesting deal. If I was an investor, you can click on it right now, and it takes you to the term sheet, gives you a little bit more information. So it tells you the region. They're in Alaska and Yukon, great jurisdictions, gives you the warrant information.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. So, I mean, heck, I would pick up the phone right away and talk to Tectonic and see if I can participate in this financing. This is how easy it is, Frank. And I'm laughing because someone asked me yesterday, how would I describe private placements in one sentence? And I said, we put investors 1 degree away from wealth creation. And really, that's how easy it is you can look at it day to day. Every morning, you can see what's happening in the last 24 hours. And the ones that look interesting, you can pick up the phone, call the company, you can talk to them and get more information and see if it's something that fits your criteria.
And this is pretty amazing because when we go back to this, and I look, it's non-brokered. A lot of these non-brokers, you can really call the company if you're a credit investor and get it invest in companies. But what I notice is this isn't just like BS companies. You have hundreds here listed. Again, we picked something that would list this many companies, but it just shows you the half the full warrants. But there's like, yeah,
like look, you got Air Canada down there. You have Great Bear, another great story. You have the real estate REITs there. This is everything. Every Canadian listed company will be featured on this. We don't curate or yeah.
No, this is
so
great.
our job at this is to show you everything that's available. We take that the investor will then, based on their preferences, will decide what direction to go from there. So we don't play favorites, or we don't have any sort of filtering or bias about who gets featured. We got companies calling us, asking us how they can have their private placement featured on the website, and we just tell them, issue a press release, it'll get picked up. So there's no I just tell them, just announce it. I'll go on there.
Everyone's looking for publicity. What I like about this is you have everything in one spot. But even when I look at your website, like I said earlier, it's not. We pick base metals, precious metals, but it's energy, healthcare, cannabis, finance, industrials, technologies. I mean, you list everything automatically. Now, here's the big question. This is Canadian, and a lot of my investors understand Canadian stocks. That's the mining industry. Great exchanges there, much better than buying some of these things which trade on over-the-counter exchanges. So what about U.S. listed? Because is that a little more difficult? We're not talking about the ones that are Goldman Sachs coming out at it, but there's a lot of small cap companies I cover that raise money. Is there any way you can cover some of this, or is it just really hard from you being in Canada and covering? Because that would be really interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, we've looked at U.S. and we've actually looked at Australia. We've looked at the ASX, and we've have done some testing on tracking the data. The way that the data is tracked is, as you can imagine, it can get pretty complicated, and each country with their requirements with filings is slightly different. So the system that will apply to Canada will have to be modified for US and modified for other countries. So right now, Canada for us was the first market that we wanted to cover, and it's such a big market that right now there's a lot more to achieve just in Canada. We haven't decided on any other countries or markets yet, but like I said, there's still a lot to do in Canada, and especially with precious metals being in such demand right now, and Canada being kind of like the Silicon Valley of these precious metals juniors and startups. I feel like the timing is perfect to have this service for the Canadian markets.
I'm going to say something to you. Why are you giving all this away for free? This is more information. I mean, again, I love... Because when it's investing, it's all about having access, and it doesn't mean having insider access. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when I'm going to conferences. We just recommended a company that we're doing very well on called Wrap Technologies. In this environment, what's going on, we all know with riots and stuff like that. This is a non-lethal device that wraps people up, and the stock is taken off. I've filmed police that I interviewed, retired police chiefs, the whole entire management team, and I got shot by this device over a year ago. But I was introduced to this guy who runs this company from someone who I know in the industry, and I have a deep contact list just like you do. But talk about the importance, because having access to this, and people don't know this is available, where they could actually see every financing going on with every company in Canada, basically. And how important is that? And is this thing always going to be free?
Listen, the freemium model, which is a well-known model for a lot of SaaS companies, it's something that we've explored. So right now, the data that we're offering is free, and to set up an account, it's free. And don't forget, a lot of this information is publicly available. What we've done is we've built a tool that aggregates all this information and allows for the research, sorting, and filtering of this information to be simplified. So if you wanted to do what we've done, but do it on your own, it will take you a few hours a day probably to track everything. So we see our service really as a way to empower investors. And right now, the data that we provide is really valuable. I think it's a no-brainer to use this as part of your kind of toolbox for researching opportunities. There's no plans to. Sorry, I just had to silent that call. There's no plans to change this. So we're going to keep providing data for free. There's going to be more premium solutions provided down the road, but this data that you get right now, which is so valuable, will continue to be free. And right now, another thing that we just added recently that you can actually see if you go back to the website, and this is really important because this allows you to have a easier time tracking these deals. If you go to my watch list in the top right corner, so as you can see, there's some deals already added here. So you have Bluestone Resources, Gold Mining, Great Bear Resources, Valor Metals, and Well Health Technologies. So you can actually create your personal watch list. And what this does is it notifies you anytime one of these companies is raising money, anytime one of these companies has closed the financing, anytime the stock from the financing becomes free trading. That's really important. As you know, the shares that you purchase through a private placements have a 4-month hold on it. And so knowing when that stock is free trading and then whether it's in the money or not is extremely important. And having this tool to be able to track that kind of keeps adding to the overall value of this tool and resource. There's also the warrants calendar. If you go to the navigation there, warrants right there in the yellow bar. There you go. So this shows you all the warrants that are becoming free trading. Amex Exploration, that's actually a crazy one. They have warrants at 15-cent strike price. I think their stock is trading at $1.10 right now. Whoever's owning those warrants, they're very, very happy.
Wow, there's like hundreds and hundreds of companies on this list.
Yeah.
Wow, this goes so basically tracking all the data. This is an incredible site, and the fact that all this is for free. I just love sharing the resources with everybody. And the watch list is important because, I mean, even the companies that you own, sometimes you want to own more, but you can put them on your watch list. And when they actually announce one of these, now you could probably get in it. You're a shareholder. If it's a brokered placement, it might be a little difficult. You might have to have an account at that specific brokerage firm. But
there's still a way though. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's still a way, even with brokered. I feel like, if you don't have an account with that firm, just contacting the company and letting them know you're interested. Most companies aren't going to say no unless it's really oversubscribed. They'll try to facilitate if they can. At the end of the day, companies and issuers see the value of adding new shareholders and bringing on new investors. So they're not going to say no. It's more so a matter of if the timing is right and if there's still any financing paper left.
Yeah, this is great stuff, Arash. Congratulations on this site. And I really thank you for coming on. I mean, look, I don't get paid for anything. I just try to bring resources. And this is a free resource where I get this question asked all the time. How do I get into more private placements? Here it is. Because I don't even get to see all of them. I see some of them. I could share it with my newsletter subscribers who are credit investors. But, to have all this in one spot is pretty amazing. So really good job, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. And, if your users and audience, if they have questions, feel free to email me. It's just my first name, Arash, ARASH, @privateplacements.com. We're adding new features all the time to the website. And really, we want this to be the one-stop shop for private placement investing.
All right. And before I go, this is much more important than anything we talked about. The World Cup. Where is it? Where's the next World Cup? It's not Qatar yet, right?
It's supposed to be in Qatar, yeah. 2022. But it'd be interesting to see what happens. But either way, that would be a fun destination to go to if it's obviously safe to travel and all that other necessary requirements.
Well, if they're right about the coronavirus that doesn't travel well in the heat, it's probably going to be 120 degrees there. So that's a good sign, right?
So maybe it's the best place to be there. We'll have to just move the operations to Doha.
No, that's definitely the next road trip, buddy. So listen, thanks so much for coming on. And, I'll talk to you soon. We'll get together soon, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Frank.
So great stuff for Arash. He's just a great guy. And his site right now is not for accredited investors, but crowdfunding is going to open up. Okay. And he didn't really want to get to it for the legal process and stuff like that, but because he couldn't provide a time frame. But the goal is to have this not just for accredited investors, but for everyone. Open up these investment opportunities where you can get warrants. Warrants are just like free options. But just, going over that site, and again, this is a video you can find on Curzio Research YouTube page. We went through it. We're doing a lot of these interviews in video format now. We're going to be doing the podcast in video format pretty soon too. So it's going to be really, really cool. But I want to continue to bring you these types of resources because it is narrowing the gap between Wall Street and Main Street and having regular people have access to these. And I'm not going to lie. Most of these, I'd say more than 85% of these are bad. It's difficult. I mean, I have access to a lot of this stuff. I've always had access to it, but I never had one place that I could look at every single deal in Canada that's launched. That's pretty amazing. And again, it's all public information, but he created an algorithm where all this filters down and you could see this. And I know because I saw it and I was amazed. And now you have access absolutely for free. If you want to sign up for it, sign up for it. If not, don't sign up for it. Again, it's free. But crowdfunding up to this point has been a complete scam. Not a complete scam, but 90%. I'm not talking about the GoFundMe pages for people where, they have tragedies and stuff like that. But a lot of the products and services of what these kids do is they're like, hey, you start a Kickstarter. We want to raise $1 million. And, we're creating this, brand new supercomputer that's amazing. And you invest in it. You're not investing in it. All you're doing is funding this guy's company. And if they're successful, you're going to get a free computer and a pat on the back. If they get taken over for $55 trillion, you get zero. You have no equity stake. That's crowdfunding. Or you could just wait till this product comes out and you buy the product. How about that? Instead of funding this person trying to launch this new site. Because obviously, it's not that good of an idea because he couldn't get any money from investment bankers. I mean, you'll hear those stories about Oculus Rift and a couple of them. I'd say less than 1% really can go on to be huge, successful businesses and multi-million-dollar businesses. But crowdfunding is kind of a scam. A lot of people don't know that. They're investing in things what they think they're investing. They're not. They're giving people money to create their company, and these assholes are too selfish to give away a piece of their company to anyone. This is different. This is average investors. You don't have to be an accredited investor. That's coming soon. Again, Arash didn't want to talk about it. I understand it from a legal standpoint. He's like, if I had a time frame, I'd do it, but they're working incredibly hard to make this happen. That's why I just didn't want to throw something out and say, hey, for all you accredited investors who are listeners out there, this is for you. Everybody else, shut this interview off. No. This could be a couple of months. It could be a year, but this is going to happen. And now you have a free resource that you'll have access. And that's what I love to do. If you see my daily videos, not really daily anymore. I'm doing a couple a week. I slowed it down now that the market's in much better shape. I wanted to be there for everybody and my following and, I was doing daily videos in the middle of the coronavirus. But just, the goal here is for me to just provide these resources to you, to give you access to so many of the things that I have access to. That's why when we become subscribers to our products, it's really cool. And you're getting access that you're really not going to see in too many places because of our my contacts. And there's a couple of stock picks that are doing incredibly well for us where we were first to the party. And it wasn't just me recommending the stock. It was me taking a flight out to New York City, testing a device. Testing with it. You guys probably know the stock I'm talking about, where I got shot by it. Interviewing the management team, retired police, everything. I mean, that's the research we do to try to get ahead of it. And that's where I use my contacts for. It's not insider information. It's just having access to information, which is very, very important. And this is something that's going to give you access to every single private placement in Canada. And it's not just mining stocks, guys. It's not just mining stocks. So check out the site again. It's for free. If not, no worries. But I just love providing you guys with free tools, again, which I do in my daily videos I'll get into before. I share a lot of this stuff with you and always use free sites when I share my screen. This way, everybody can follow along. Now, let's get to my educational segment real quick. So I'm getting a lot of questions. We have a newsletter called MoneyFlow Trader. And MoneyFlow Trader is based on buying put options and betting against stocks, market, ETFs. We saw a lot of these subscriptions during the coronavirus. A lot of people made money as the market came down tremendously, but now the market's on fire, right? The S&P 500 is up 12% in 13 trading sessions. So a lot of people got an email, subscribed, and said, Frank, the markets are down, and a lot of these positions are down. What do you think? Just questioning performance. And I wanted to do a quick educational segment on this because this is going to help you become a great investor. So our MoneyFlow Trader product, which is a premium product, it's based on buying long-dated puts, probably around a year on average, betting against a stock that it's going to go down. Well, markets have gone up, so a lot of these options are worthless right now, but you do have a year, right? You still have a year's time. None of you are going to be surprised if the market falls from 15% from these levels after this massive run. Nobody would be surprised. But there's a huge bid under this market. We continue to flood it with money, but just even the racial riots, is more and more stores closing. Even that's not affecting the money coming into the market right now, but it will. We're just canceling travel to China back and forth, right? The U.S., you're going to see that heat up tremendously. And China's a growth engine of the world, and China needs the U.S., but there's a lot more at stake than just tit-for-tat trade wars. This is more than 100,000 Americans have been killed because of something that could have been contained that wasn't contained from China, okay? Those are the facts. You found out you had this virus, pandemic spreading, and you close your own country, right? You just, close everything surrounding Wuhan, but let people fly out of Wuhan to everybody else around the world, and you spread this thing everywhere. And you weren't up front. We had no data. You didn't let anybody in there, any scientists, nothing, okay? So that's going to be a major risk. Lots of risk. We're looking at valuations not seen, forget about 20 years. It's more like 30, 35 years now. It's incredible. I mean, companies are saying, sales aren't going to decline by 80%. They're only going to decline by 40%. And they're trading at all-time highs. Think about if a company said in a normal market that our sales are going to be down 40% and their stock was all-time high. What would that stock do? It would get cut in half in a day. Here, no, that's good news. It's great news. It will happen. You'll see the market come down, but we have a bid under it. We have a lot of money coming into it. We have every other country that's terrible, more money flooding in. Even from bond markets where interest rates are so low, it makes sense to buy dividend-paying stocks instead of going the 10-year, you're paying 0.6, 0.7, wherever it is today. But the average yield in the S&P is what, 1.8? You can get 3%, 3.5% from some of our banks. I don't know if that's a great investment over the next 5 years. Even if they underperform the market and they're flat, a 3% annual yield is pretty cool compared to keeping your money in the bank, CD, 10-year, right? So that's why we're seeing money flood into the markets right now. So MoneyFlow Trader, here's how I wanted you to use it. And it's important to understand this because this should be used as a hedge for your portfolio. This is what the greatest investors do. This is why I created this product and why it's different from everything out there. So say if you have a $100,000 portfolio, most people are long. You take $10,000 of that and you put in some of these positions, these long-dated puts. Okay, you're only going to lose the amount of money that you put in here. So your $90,000 is long. So if the market goes up, you're pretty happy because your portfolio is doing great. And you're hedging it a little bit. So it would be great if you had a whole $100,000 going long. But, again, I'm using 100,000 hypothetical. It could be 10,000, whatever. But now let's say the market falls 15%. And you have $10,000 in some of these long-dated puts. And you need one of those things to work to cover that $10,000 investment. And when I say one of those things to work, I'm looking at a 30% decline in some of these stocks, which can happen in a day from where some of these things are trading. I mean, Zoom put up amazing numbers. It deserves to be trading where it is. Yes, crazy valuation. I've never seen a company beat by that big of a margin, beat consensus estimates by that big of a margin ever. They put up the number. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, you never see a company run 200% into the quarter, report numbers, and the stock didn't really go down after the report. That's how great those numbers were. There's businesses that are going to benefit tremendously, especially in technology. But there's other businesses that aren't going to see business go back to normal for a very, very long time. So why are you trading at your all-time high? And this is the first market I've ever seen in my career, where earnings are declining and stocks continue to surge higher. Think about that. That didn't happen during the dot-com crisis. We saw growth. These sites were growing like crazy. People just getting onto the internet for the first time. Dot-com bubble. There was growth across the board. Earnings were like, kind of small back then, but they were still growing in terms of users, in terms of revenue. They just were all making money and trading at stupid, like billion-dollar valuations when, they had 100,000 people looking at their website compared to maybe the previous year, there was 10,000. So you saw growth there, and then the market crashed because of valuations. This is a market where you're seeing earnings decline incredibly, sharply. I'm talking about the whole S&P 500. 95% of the earnings are going to be wiped out this quarter for Russell 2000 companies. Think about that. 95%. Stock's going higher. But it will happen. You will see 30% declines in some of these names. Now, what happens if the whole market comes down, right? So now, you have 90,000 you're long, but that 10,000 that you invested in some of these long-dated puts, they're going to be up 5x to 10x. That part of your portfolio could turn into 50, 60 grand. That's how you hedge yourself in this market. That's why I created this product. Listen, you're going to lose money if the market goes up every single day. Okay, fine. But it's almost like insurance. So if you're in this newsletter, MoneyFlow Trader, and again, Jenny's doing a fantastic job here. You don't want to put everything that you have in stocks into this. I'm talking about your equity portfolio of 100,000. You should have money in bonds. You should have money maybe in C's and cash, of course. But if you have $100,000 dedicated to stocks, take 10 grand out and put it towards some of these positions. Because if the market comes down as a whole, most stocks are going to get nailed. And even the risky ones go down much more than the market. So, you're going to see huge declines. We should see a little bit more than 30% decline in the S&P 500. How many companies do you know are down 50, 60%? Even the S&P 500. You're looking at more than half of those companies are still down more than 20%. I know you think that's crazy. It's just if you take an equal weighting of every stock, just look at it. It's still down a ton because it's being driven by the biggest names in that sectors that have trillion-dollar market caps. Google's, Microsoft, Amazon's. And don't forget Apple. That's another thing with Apple. Did you see Apple? Apple, the great analyst that covers it, said due to his channel checks, they were expected 25 million iPhone 12 units to be produced. Now it's 10 million. 10 million. And if you notice with the iPhone 11, AT&T selling it for half. They got this inventory, selling it for half, trying to get it off, right? Because they weren't able to sell it during the coronavirus. 25 million units to 10 million units. Any normal market, if Apple said that stock would have fell 15%. Today, it's not even a blip on the radar. Nobody cares. Oh, they're going to sell plenty of them 2021, 2022, whatever. But again, we're in a market where in a bull market, all news is good news, just like in a bear market. Look at mining. I mean, how many companies in mining, if you're really into mining over the past 10 years, and maybe over the past 7 when it was really, really terrible, right? From 2012 to 2018 for the most part. I saw companies report amazing drilling results, and it was used as a selling opportunity for people to dump the stock because they were highly leveraged or they were on margin. So even you look at bear markets, good news and bad news is bad news. In bull markets, good news and bad news is good news. That's what we're in right now, but it's not always going to be like that. And I don't know when it's going to change, but I do know that this is the most dangerous market I've ever seen in my career. And who's someone who cares, I want to protect you. Am I going to be wrong? Yes, but I'm not telling you to short the entire market. No. I lost money shorting Disney. I was wrong, but I made money on a lot of other stocks that I'm long on. So you're overall long with your portfolio as long-term holders, but you need to protect yourself in this market, and this provides a way to do it, and it's easy to do where it's not too difficult. It's not this crazy option straddles and stuff like that. It's almost as easy as making a stock trade, but it will work out. And again, if you're losing right now, it means the rest of your portfolio should be doing great. Because I know a lot of you have subscribed to that product. I think it's a fantastic product, but you have to use it the right way. And it's going to result in some of these positions, you're going to lose money on them if you see a market that's going up the way it is, but the rest of your portfolio should be doing very good. But if this market turns, you're going to be very, very happy. You'll be buying me a beer the next time I see you. And that's what we want to do. We want to protect ourselves. We always want to worry about the risk. I know it's hard when the market's going up. I just recommended a stock that's up 100%, 120% in 2 weeks. You guys, most of you know who it is. If you're a subscriber, you know the stock. Mentioned it. And even if you're a listener, you probably know it as well because we had to be the person. Anyway. And the questions I'm getting is, should I buy more? It's your normal reaction. Should I buy calls on it? Should I buy... It's up 120% in 2 weeks. No. There's a time maybe take a little bit off the table. Maybe. Depending on what price you got in. But that's your mentality. When things are going high, you're always looking at, oh man, what could have happened? Try not to think that way. I mean, you always have to look at your risk, because once you lose the money, it's gone. You can't invest. That's why in bear markets, it's great if you're prepared. We were prepared. We have a lot of money. We got off the side. We're on the sidelines. We sold out a lot of positions, being able to get well ahead of this. And now we can participate in the move higher. And that's what we've been doing in the newsletters. Not as aggressively as I wanted to, because it's very dangerous out there. So if you're investing, definitely use stops in your positions. But MoneyFlow Trader, that's how you need to use that product. That's how the greatest investors in the world invest. That's why they're billionaires. They're always hedging themselves a little bit. This way, if they're wrong, and if you're wrong, you're going to make a little bit of money, and you're not going to get crushed. In this world of the government bailing out the world, it doesn't matter. People take on excessive risk because they know if they're wrong, the government's there and they'll give them a check. I mean, that kind of sucks. But for you as individual investors, always, always, always worry about risk. The reward will come. The market has, look at the S&P 500. Just look at a chart from it from the 50s, right? When it came 500 companies. It's the most secular growth chart you'll ever see. It's straight up. Yeah, you got 2008. Yeah, you got coronavirus, a couple 87. But look at it, go straight up. And you want to be long-term in this market, but there's going to be times where it's going to get crazy like the coronavirus, like 2008, and you need to protect yourself. MoneyFlow Trader is a way to do that. So hopefully I address your concerns. Not really concerns, but just people saying, hey, I'm down on this. What's going on? If you use a newsletter that way, you should be okay because you're long most of your portfolio. But when this market turns, or when some of these stocks turn, because not all of them are going to do great. We know not all the sectors. Some of them are going to thrive in a new world order, and some of them aren't. These are the positions that can get you 5x, 10x just by going down 30%. And you want to have that hedge, that insurance on your portfolio. Okay, guys, if you want to see more than me, hey, you can sign up to our free email list, CurzioResearch.com. We send out so much free information. It's really cool, even the free podcast we have. But also feel free to tweet me at Frank Curzio, and also Curzio Research YouTube page, because we're doing lots of videos, really cool. We did a little bit of a demonstration on privateplacements.com of how easy it is to use. Again, I'm not getting paid for them. If you don't want it, you don't want it. But it's really, really cool when you see the interviews. Plus, we're using amazing technology that's being used. It's similar to CNBC, all the stations, where go back and forth in screens. I could share the screen at the same time during the interview, split screens, amazing stuff. We really spent a lot of money to upgrade this to provide the best experience for you when it comes to video. And that's why we're doing lots more videos, even in our newsletters now, which is really, really cool. So any questions or comments? I'm sure I'll get a lot from my opening segment. Again, just speaking from the heart there. I know we need change. Hopefully everyone stays safe out there. But questions, comments, feel free to email at frankcurzioresearch.com. Thanks so much for listening. As always, appreciate your support. And I'll see you guys in 7 days. Take care.
The information presented on Wall Street Unplugged is the opinion of its hosts and guests. You should not base your investment decisions solely on this broadcast. Remember, it's your money and your responsibility. Wall Street Unplugged, produced by the Choose Yourself Podcast Network, the leader in podcasts produced to help you choose yourself.